Commander Zethka stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Crimson Talon. His yellow eyes stared at the small blue planet floating in the darkness of space. Earth looked so tiny and weak, compared to the mighty worlds his people had taken. During the past 50 years, the Vorthan Empire had crushed dozens of planets across 3 sectors of the galaxy. Some worlds surrendered without a fight when they saw the power of Vorthan ships. Others tried to resist but failed within days. Now it was time to add this human world to their collection. Zethka clicked his sharp teeth together, a sign of excitement. Among his reptilian people, the intelligence reports made this mission sound almost too easy. Humans had only learned to travel between stars 200 years ago. Their technology was basic and their ships were small. The Vorthan War Council had rated them as barely worth worrying about. Commander, his second officer Rilkvan approached with a datapad in his clawed hands. The final reports on the human settlements are ready. Zethka took the device and studied the information. Humans had spread to only 12 worlds in their local area of space. Their biggest colony was on a red planet they called Mars, where they dug up minerals from the ground. Other settlements had names like New Boston and Liberty Station, and they seemed to focus on growing food for their people. The human military looked like a joke compared to Vorthan forces. Their largest ships were called destroyers and cruisers, but even these were smaller than Vorthan scout vessels. Intelligence estimated the entire human fleet at fewer than 300 ships spread across all their colonies. What about their recent messages? Zethka asked. Ril Cavan's face showed disgust. They keep trying to talk, Commander. A human called Captain Ben Murphy has sent 15 communication requests asking for peaceful meetings. Their Admiral Lisa Chang offered to share technology and send cultural ambassadors to learn about us. Zethka laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. His crew joined in the laughter. The idea that these weak creatures wanted to negotiate instead of preparing for war proved how soft they were. Pathetic, he growled. They should be building defenses and training warriors. Instead, they want to have tea parties and exchange gifts. This will be easier than conquering the crystal beings of Zarian IV. That victory still brought pride to Zethka's heart. The Zarian crystal creatures had advanced energy weapons and strong shields, but they fell in just 4 days when faced with superior Vorthan tactics. The proud warrior clans of the Altarian Confederacy had been even easier. After watching one demonstration of Vorthan firepower destroy an entire moon, they surrendered their whole government rather than see their people die. Even the smart and technical Nexus Collective had chosen to pay tribute instead of fighting. Their computer networks and robot armies meant nothing when Vorthan dreadnoughts appeared in their skies. Humans would follow the same pattern. Zethka had seen it too many times to doubt the outcome. First would come desperate attempts to negotiate, then panic when they realized negotiation was impossible. Finally, either quick surrender or brief, hopeless resistance followed by total defeat. The human ship names made him laugh even more. Independence, Defiance, Ranger, Patriot. Such dramatic names for such weak vessels. It reminded him of small children playing war games with toy soldiers. How many ships should we bring for this campaign? Rilkvan asked. Itavdashka considered the question. His full battle fleet contained over 600 warships, including 20 massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire cities with single shots. But using the full fleet against humans would be like using a sledgehammer to crush an insect. We will take 200 ships, he decided. That should be more than enough to handle whatever resistance they can offer. The rest of the fleet can remain at the home worlds for other missions. Even 200 ships was probably too many, but Zethka wanted his younger officers to gain experience in real combat. Fighting humans would be good practice for them before facing more dangerous enemies in the future. The Vorthan commander walked to the large viewing window that showed space and the distant human world. Somewhere down on that planet, humans were probably going about their daily lives without knowing that death approached from the stars. They might be working in their offices, playing with their children, or eating dinner with their families. Soon, all of that would end. The Vorthan Empire would take their world, use their people as workers, and add their resources to the growing collection of conquered territories. It was the natural order of things. Strong species took what they wanted. From weak ones. Zeth had climbed through the ranks of the Vorthan military by following this simple rule. He had served as a junior officer during the Zerian campaign, led assault troops against the Alterian homeworld, and commanded a destroyer squadron when they crushed the Nexus Rebellion. Each victory had brought him higher rank and greater honor. This human campaign would probably earn him promotion to Fleet Admiral. The High Command always rewarded successful conquests, especially when they came with minimal losses and maximum profit. Human worlds would provide useful mining sites and their people could work in Vorthan factories. Begin final preparations, he ordered his bridge crew. All ships should be ready to enter hyperspace within 6 hours. We will drop out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of their solar system and advance on their home world. What about their patrol ships? Asked Lieutenant Vaskte, one of the younger officers. Destroy any that resist, Zethka replied without emotion. Capture any that surrender quickly. Either way, make sure word reaches their planet that the Vorthan Empire has arrived. Fear will make them more likely to give up without pointless fighting. The bridge filled with activity as crew members prepared for the jump to hyperspace. Weapon systems came online with low humming sounds. Shield generators charged to full power. Navigation computers calculated the exact route to the human solar system. Zethka felt the familiar excitement that came before battle. Soon he would add another victory to his record and another world to the Empire. The humans with their small ships and peaceful messages would learn what happened when they encountered a superior species. He had no way of knowing that this campaign would be different from all the others. He could not imagine that these strange creatures called humans had something his people had never faced before. Something that would turn his easy victory into the worst defeat in Vorthan history. The Crimson Talon and its escort fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying Zethka toward a lesson in warfare that would change him forever. 3 weeks later, Commander Zethka watched his advanced scouts drop out of hyperspace near the giant planet Jupiter. The human solar system stretched before them, looking peaceful and undefended. Perfect conditions for what should have been a quick and easy victory. His 3 scout ships moved carefully through the outer system, scanning for human patrols. The Vorthan vessels were each 3 times larger than the biggest human destroyer, armed with plasma cannons that could cut through any Earth-built armor. Zethka expected to find a few frightened patrol boats that would either run away or surrender immediately. What happened next would haunt his dreams forever. Commander Jake Rivers of the human destroyer Patriot was leading a routine patrol with 2 other ships when the alien vessels appeared on his sensors. The Vorthan ships made no attempt to hide themselves or communicate. They simply began moving toward the inner solar system like they owned the place. Rivers studied the enemy ships on his display screen. Each one was massive compared to his own vessel, bristling with weapons that his intelligence officer said could destroy cities. Any sane military commander would have retreated to warn Earth and called for reinforcements. Jake Rivers was not interested in being sane. All ships, this is Commander Rivers. His voice crackled across the communication channels to the other human vessels. We have 3 large enemy contacts approaching our system. They do not appear friendly, and they sure as hell are not invited. The human destroyer Patriot began accelerating directly toward the Vorthan scout ships. Behind it, the frigate Liberty Bell and the corvette Boston Tea Party followed in attack formation. 3 small human ships against 3 massive alien warships. The odds were hopeless. Zeth-K received the reports from his scout commanders with growing confusion. The humans were not running away. They were not trying to surrender. Instead, they were charging straight at superior forces while broadcasting what sounded like battle songs across all radio frequencies. "Remember the Alamo," Rivers shouted over the comm system. "Remember Pearl Harbor, and remember that these alien bastards picked the wrong species to mess with today." The Vorthan commander had studied many alien cultures during his military career. He had seen desperate last stands before. But something about the human approach felt different. These creatures were not fighting because they had no choice. They were fighting because they wanted to fight. The Patriot opened fire first, its missiles streaking across space toward the lead Vorthan scout ship. The alien vessel's shields absorbed the attack easily, but Rivers was not finished. He pushed his engines to maximum power and aimed his ship directly at the enemy hull. "What is that human doing?" Sub-Commander Rilkvan asked from his position on the Crimson Talon. Zeth-K watched the tactical display with growing alarm. The human ship was not trying to win a normal space battle. It was turning itself into a guided missile, racing toward impact at incredible speed. At the last possible moment, the Patriot released a massive explosive charge from its forward section. Commander Rivers and his crew of 43 humans died instantly when their ship slammed into the Vorthan vessel, but the explosion tore through alien shields and armor like paper. The scout ship broke apart in a ball of fire and metal, taking over 300 Vorthan warriors with it. Captain Amy Foster of the Liberty Bell used the confusion to launch something even more shocking. Her ship fired boarding pods directly at the second Vorthan scout vessel. Human Marines in armored suits smashed through the alien hull and began fighting hand-to-hand in the corridors. The Vorthans had never encountered anything like human close combat tactics. Their own people preferred to fight at long range with energy weapons and advanced technology. But humans seemed to enjoy getting close enough to see their enemies' faces when they killed them. Marine Sergeant Tony Mitchell was hit by 3 plasma bolts that would have killed most alien species. Instead of falling down, he kept fighting with nothing but a combat knife after his rifle was destroyed. When 4 Vorthan warriors cornered him in a narrow hallway, he activated a grenade rather than surrender, taking all of them down with him. Private Kelly Rodriguez held a critical junction for over 20 minutes against overwhelming odds. Her armor was cracked, her weapon was running out of power, and she was bleeding from multiple wounds. But she kept fighting, giving her squad time to plant demolition charges in the engine room. The Vorthan crew tried everything they could think of to stop the human boarders. Poison gas that would kill most species only made the humans angry. Electric barriers that should have fried their nervous systems were bypassed with crude but effective methods. Even when cornered and outnumbered, individual human Marines fought like wild animals instead of surrendering. When the Liberty Bell finally exploded the second scout ship from the inside, 17 humans had somehow killed over 200 Vorthan warriors in close combat. The alien survivors who escaped in life pods babbled about humans who fought with their bare hands when their weapons broke and who seemed to feel no fear of death. Lieutenant Chris Murphy, commanding the Boston Tea Party, managed to escape the battle, but not before recording detailed scans of Vorthan technology and tactics. His ship limped back toward Earth with vital intelligence about the enemy capabilities and weaknesses. The third human vessel had lost the fight, but it had won something more important. It had learned how to hurt the invaders. Back on the Crimson Talon, Zeth-K stared at the battle reports with growing unease. His advanced scouts had destroyed 2 small human ships, but at the cost of 2 of his own vessels and over 500 experienced warriors. Worse, the humans had shown tactical abilities that did not match their supposed primitive nature. "Commander," Rilkvan approached carefully, "perhaps we should reassess the human threat level. Their combat methods are unlike anything in our military databases. Zefka's pride burned at the suggestion. He had committed to this campaign before the entire Vorthan High Command. Every officer in the fleet was watching to see how he handled these unexpected human tactics. To show weakness now would mean disgrace and the end of his career. "These humans simply caught our scouts by surprise," he said firmly. "Suicide attacks and boarding actions will not work against our main battle fleet. We will proceed with the original plan and crush their home system with overwhelming force." But deep in his mind, doubt began to grow. The humans had not fought like a civilized species trying to preserve itself. They had fought like something else entirely. Something that valued honor and defiance more than survival. Lieutenant Chris. Murphy's ship reached Earth 3 days later with news of the first contact battle. The human leadership received his reports with grim determination. They had hurt the aliens, but at a terrible cost. 2 ships and over 100 brave souls were gone. Admiral Lisa Chang studied the tactical data from the Boston Tea Party's sensors. The Vorthan ships were powerful, but they had weaknesses. Their shields focused on long-range energy attacks. Their crews seemed confused by aggressive close combat tactics. Most importantly, they appeared to be unprepared for enemies who were willing to die to achieve victory. "Send word to all colonies," she ordered her staff officers. "Every ship, every weapon, every person capable of fighting. We are going to show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth." Across human space, the call went out. This was not just another battle between military forces. This was a fight for the survival of humanity itself. And humans had been preparing for that fight their entire history. 3 weeks after the first battle, Commander Zefka's main fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human solar system. 200 Vorthan warships spread across space like a deadly cloud, their weapons charged and shields raised. It was the largest military force the Empire had ever sent against a single world. Zefka stood on his bridge, expecting to see human ships fleeing toward their home planet in panic. Instead, his sensors showed something that made no sense at all. The humans had not run away. They had turned their entire solar system into a fortress around the giant planet Jupiter. Dozens of mining stations had been converted into weapon platforms. Each one bristled with missile launchers and energy cannons that should not have existed on civilian structures. The moons of Saturn held more surprises, with defense batteries that tracked the incoming Vorthan fleet with deadly precision. Even more shocking were the ships. Hundreds of human vessels waited in carefully planned positions throughout the system. Military destroyers and cruisers formed the backbone of the defense, but they were joined by converted cargo haulers, mining ships, and even passenger liners that had been fitted with weapons. "This is impossible," Subcommander Rilkvan whispered, as he studied the tactical displays. "Our intelligence said they only had 300 ships total. I count over 800 vessels ready for battle." Admiral Lisa Chang commanded the human defense from her flagship Washington, a massive battleship that had not appeared in any Vorthan intelligence reports. Around her, the human fleet waited in perfect formation, every ship positioned to create overlapping fields of fire that would trap the attacking aliens in a deadly crossfire. "All ships, this is Admiral Chang," her voice carried across every human vessel in the system. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist among the stars. These aliens think we are weak because we are new to space. Let us show them what 10,000 years of warfare has taught us." The space battle that followed became the stuff of legend. Human ships that should have been destroyed by superior firepower somehow kept fighting long after their hulls were breached and their systems failing. The carrier Lincoln took direct hits from 3 Vorthan plasma cannons, her flight decks torn open and atmosphere venting into space. But she continued launching fighters until the very moment her reactor core finally gave out. Captain Ryan Davis commanded the cruiser Philadelphia in a desperate attack against a Vorthan dreadnought. His ship was outgunned and outmassed by a factor of 10. But Davis had studied the enemy vessels captured during the first battle. He knew their weak points. "All power to forward shields," he ordered his crew. "We are going to ram that ugly alien ship right in its main weapon port." The Philadelphia accelerated toward the massive enemy vessel, dodging plasma bolts and missile explosions. Other human ships joined the attack, 15 vessels in total throwing themselves at the Vorthan dreadnought. Like a pack of wolves bringing down a giant beast, the alien ship survived the ramming attacks, but its main weapons were destroyed, and its hull was cracked open in dozens of places. Human submarines that had somehow been modified for space combat slipped through the damage and began attacking the ship from the inside. But the real shock came when Vorthan forces finally reached the planet Mars and attempted a ground invasion. The aliens expected to find scattered human settlements that would surrender quickly when faced with superior technology. Instead, they encountered something that had never been seen before in galactic warfare: an entire population that refused to give up. Civilian miners fought alongside colonial marines, using tools and equipment they knew better than any soldier. Scientists turned their research laboratories into fortified bunkers, using their knowledge of chemistry and physics to create deadly surprises for the invaders. Even teenagers joined the fight, using their understanding of the mining tunnel systems to launch surprise attacks against Vorthan occupation forces. Colonel Frank Turner commanded the defense of New Angeles, the largest human settlement on Mars. When Vorthan dropships landed outside the city, he broadcast a message that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations to come. "We are Americans," his voice echoed through the communication systems. "We are the children of people who crossed oceans to find freedom, who fought a revolution against an empire, who died at places like Gettysburg and Normandy for the idea that free people should not kneel to tyrants. If you want our world, you will have to take it over our dead bodies." The Vorthan ground forces quickly discovered that human civilians were nothing like the conquered populations they had faced on other worlds. When a Vorthan patrol entered the mining district, they found the tunnels had been turned into a maze of traps and ambush points. Human defenders appeared from hidden positions, struck hard, and then vanished back into passages the aliens could not follow. Bobby Chun was only 17 years old, but he had grown up in the Mars colonies and knew every tunnel and cavern in the underground network. He led a group of other teenagers in a series of raids that destroyed 3 Vorthan supply convoys and killed over 50 enemy soldiers. Maria Gonzalez worked in the colony's power plant before the war. When the aliens tried to capture the facility, she turned her knowledge of the electrical systems into deadly weapons. Overloaded power lines became electric traps. Backup generators were rigged to explode when alien technicians tried to activate them. For the first time in his long military career, Zethka watched his forces get bogged down in a planetary campaign that should have been finished in days. Human defenders turned every building into a fortress and every street into a battlefield. They used homemade explosives, sniper rifles, and suicide attacks with such skill that Vorthan casualties grew beyond anything the Empire had ever experienced. Final blow came when a group of human computer experts, led by Dr. Patricia Adams, somehow broke into the Vorthan communication networks. They uploaded a virus that disabled the targeting computers on half the invasion fleet, leaving the alien ships drifting helplessly in space while human forces pressed their counterattack. "Commander," Rilkvan approached Zethka with obvious fear in his voice. "Our casualties are approaching 60%. The other ship captains are requesting permission to withdraw from the system." Zethka stared at the tactical displays showing the disaster unfolding around him. Vorthan ships burned in space while human vessels that should have been destroyed hours ago continued fighting with damaged weapons and failing life support systems. On the surface of Mars, his ground forces were trapped in a nightmare of urban warfare against an enemy that seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. How is this possible? He asked himself, They are just one small species. We have conquered dozens of worlds." But even as he spoke, Zethka began to understand the terrible truth. The humans were not fighting like other species the Vorthons had conquered. They were not trying to preserve their civilization or save their people from destruction. They were fighting like cornered animals who would rather die than submit to slavery. Every human ship that died took at least one Vorthon vessel with it. Every human soldier who fell killed 2 or 3 aliens before going down. They fought with broken weapons and failing equipment because surrender was not an option they would consider. The Vorthon Empire had made the mistake of threatening something that humans valued more than their own lives, their freedom. "Signal the fleet," Zethka finally said, his voice heavy with defeat. "We are withdrawing from the system." As the surviving Vorthon ships limped away from the human solar system, Zethka understood that everything had changed. The Empire's reputation for invincibility was broken. Other species would hear about this defeat and begin to question Vorthon power. But more than that, Zethka realized he had learned something about warfare that would change him forever. Sometimes the side with better weapons and more ships still loses. Sometimes courage and determination matter more than superior technology. The humans had taught him that lesson in the cruelest possible way. 6 months after the failed invasion of Earth, Commander Zethka sat in a small room aboard the human prison ship Justice. The metal walls were plain and gray, but his captors had given him books, food, and medical care. It was better treatment than most Vorthon prisoners received in Empire dungeons. The mighty Vorthon Empire had suffered its first major defeat in over 2 centuries. News of the disaster spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had been conquered or threatened by Vorthon power began to whisper about rebellion. The Alterian Confederacy quietly started building new warships. Even the crystal beings of Zarian IV sent secret messages to Earth, asking for alliance with the humans who had done the impossible. Captain Danny Rodriguez was the human officer in charge of prisoner affairs. He visited Zethka every day to check on his condition and to talk about the future. Rodriguez was a young man with kind eyes, but Zethka had learned not to mistake human kindness for weakness. "Your empire has asked for peace," Rodriguez told him during one of their conversations. "The terms are simple: complete withdrawal from human space, payments for the damage you caused, and a formal apology to the families of people killed in your attack." Zethka had expected to be executed or tortured after his capture. Instead, he found himself studying human history and culture as part of what his captors called educational programs. What he learned filled him with cold fear that had nothing to do with his own fate. Humans were a species shaped by constant war. Their small planet had seen conflicts that made most galactic campaigns look like minor disagreements. They had invented weapons that could destroy their entire world, but somehow learned to control them. They had survived diseases, natural disasters, and their own worst impulses through determination and the ability to adapt. Dr. Helen Parker was a human scientist who specialized in studying alien cultures. She came to teach Zethka about human history twice a week. Her lessons were more terrifying than any torture session. "Your people made a basic mistake," she explained during one of their sessions. "You thought that because we are newer to space travel, we must be weaker or less experienced in fighting wars. But humans have been at war for our entire recorded history. We have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of conflict." She showed him records of human battles that made his scales crawl with fear. At a place called Thermopylae, 300 human warriors held off an army of thousands for days. During something called D-Day, millions of humans crossed an ocean to fight against tyranny. In the Pacific Theater, American forces fought across vast distances to defeat an empire that thought it was unbeatable. Each example showed the same frightening truth. Humans did not view warfare as just another tool for getting what they wanted. They saw it as a test of whether their civilization deserved to survive. "We do not fight because we enjoy violence," Dr. Parker continued. "We fight because we love what we are defending. Our families, our freedom, our right to exist on our own terms. When you threaten those things, you are not just facing our military. You are facing everything our species has learned about survival over millions of years." Zefka began to understand why his invasion had failed so completely. The Vorthans had approached Earth as conquerors looking for easy prey. But humans had responded as defenders, protecting everything they held sacred. The difference in motivation had been the deciding factor. Reports from other parts of the galaxy confirmed his growing fears. Human colonies were not just rebuilding from the war damage. They were expanding faster than ever before. Human technology was advancing at frightening speed as their scientists studied captured Vorthan equipment and improved upon it. Most disturbing of all, human diplomats were spreading across known space, offering friendship and defense agreements to any species willing to stand against imperial aggression. "We have created a monster," he whispered to himself one evening. Staring out at the stars through his small window, the humans had done something no other species had managed in 2 centuries of Vorthan expansion. They had not just defeated the Empire in battle. They were changing the entire balance of power in the galaxy. But perhaps the most shocking moment came when Captain Rodriguez informed him of his fate. Instead of execution or life in prison, the humans were offering him something unprecedented: the chance to return to his people as an ambassador for peace. "Your empire needs to understand what you have learned here," Admiral Lisa Chang told him during their final meeting. "Humanity does not seek conquest or domination over other species. We just want to be left alone to build our civilization among the stars. But if anyone threatens us, we will respond with everything we have." She handed him a crystal data storage device containing complete records of human military capabilities, technological achievements, and offers for peaceful cooperation. "Show them this. Help them understand that there is a better way than endless war." Admiral Chang looked tired, like someone who had seen too much fighting and death. But her eyes were still sharp and determined. "Your people are not evil, Commander. They are just trapped in a system that values conquest over cooperation. That can change, but only if someone teaches them how." As his transport ship prepared to leave for Vorthan space, Zefka thought about the bitter irony of his situation. He had come to the human solar system expecting easy victory and glorious conquest. Instead, he was returning home as living proof of humanity's greatest strength: their ability to turn enemies into allies through the same courage and determination that had defeated them in battle. The data crystal in his hand contained more than just military information. It held records of human art, music, literature, and philosophy. Stories of people who had overcome impossible odds through cooperation and sacrifice. Examples of former enemies who had become close friends and allies. During the long journey home, Zefka studied every file on the crystal. He learned about human concepts like democracy, where leaders were chosen by the people they served. He read about their ideas of individual rights and freedoms that could not be taken away by any government. He watched recordings of their music and art, created not for conquest but for the simple joy of creation. By the time his ship reached Vorthan space, Zefka understood that the Empire faced a choice. They could continue trying to conquer other species through force, and eventually face destruction when they met enemies they could not defeat. Or they could learn from their defeat and find a new way to exist among the stars. The humans had not just won a war. They had begun to reshape the galaxy itself. Species that had never dared to resist Vorthan power were now forming alliances and building new fleets. The age of easy conquest was ending, replaced by something the Empire had never faced before. A galaxy where cooperation might prove stronger than domination. When Zefka's ship docked at the Vorthan homeworld, he carried with him more than just news of military defeat. He brought the possibility of redemption through understanding. The former warrior who had once believed in the superiority of his people now knew that true strength came not from conquering others, but from earning their respect. The humans had taught him that lesson in the most painful way possible. Now it was his responsibility to teach it to his own people, before it was too late for the Vorthan Empire to change its ways. In the end, the greatest victory of the human defense had not been destroying Vorthan ships or killing alien soldiers. It had been proving that even the most dedicated warrior could learn to choose peace over war when shown a better path forward.